Hey there, thanks for tuning in. Welcome to the Viz Dojo. My name is Sean Miller, Hipster Viz Ninja, and today, this video, we're going to be walking through Tableau solution to Workout Wednesday 2023, week 26, looking at Arctic sea ice extent, and we're going to be diving into some index charts and looking at multiple layers of rolling calculations. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so here we are in Tableau. We've got our date field here. We've got our data source here. And the first thing that we need to do is, you'll see that our dates are split up into separate columns. So we need to ask Tableau to format that into a date field. So let's create a calculated field. We'll call this date. And what we'll do is very simply say make date of year, month, and day, right? That's how you do a make day. It's very, very simple. Now we've got that. Now what we need to do is, in order to create an index chart basically allows us to analyze all of the dates across different years together. So you could say, show me all of I want to be able to analyze all of the February 14th across all the years, right? So there will be a separate line for each year showing each date, right? So the way that we do that, we're going to create a calculated field. We're going to call this norm date, short for normalized date. And what we're going to say is, it's also going to be a make date. And all we have to do here is just enter an integer of a date. Doesn't matter which one. It literally doesn't matter. We just need one value for the year. So I'll say 2023, and I'll say month, which is month, and day, which is day. And then I will take that out to rows, make it exact date, and turn it back to discrete. Just like that, right? Now I'll take year and I'll put it on columns and make it discrete. And you can see here, I will not need anything from the 70s because we don't have a complete decade. So I'll go up to data, add a data source filter, click add. We'll do on year, at least 1980. So that goes away. For the sake of building this chart, for the sake of building out this crosstab that we're going to be using to validate all of our values and all of our calculations, I'm going to filter down to just showing 1990 and above. Okay, just like that. So because in the 80s, for the first several years, they only did it every other day, and then they started doing it every day. So just for the sake of this, we'll fix it later, but for the sake of this, we'll just do it for the 90s. And then once we start to make the actual final visualization, we'll bring back all of our dates, all of the 80s. So, okay, now, first thing we're going to do is let's just look at our values, right? So we bring that out here. And you can see here, we've got our values here. Everything's looking good. And now what we need to do is we need to do a 7-day rolling average of this date. So I'm going to change the aggregation to average. And again, that's not going to change anything right here because we've got everything in our view. We've got norm date and year in our view, and we will always have that. So the aggregation here can be average. So I know it kind of makes weird to do a window average of an average, but because we're using the total level of granularity, it's all going to work out just fine. So we'll do moving average. You saw it kind of change. You saw the values change. That's okay. We expected that because we're doing a moving average. But what we actually want is we want the 6 previous values plus the current value. And we want to specifically tell Tableau to compute using the normalized date field, right? So now what we'll do is we'll control or command, based on your operating system, this window, this quick table calculation, and drag it into our data window to materialize the table calculation in our data set. And we'll call this the 7-day rolling average. Now I'll double click on area to get it back in just so we can see it. I'm going to move that back up, and I'm going to rearrange my measure names and my measure names to put it on top of, to put it over here on year. Right? Now, so now you can see that 6.7 is the average of 6.62 and 6.7. Make sense? I think so. Now, what we'll need to do here is we will need to create a... So now what we need to do for our third calculation, our fourth calculation, should say, fourth calculation is going to be what is the average area for each normalized date for all of the years, right? So that is going to be a fixed table calculation or a fixed level of detail calculation. So we'll call this the this is the norm date average. And it's going to be fixed on normalized date, take the average of area. Close that, right? So for each normalized date, take the average of the area, right? That's what we're asking it to, right? So we're going to get the average of all of these, Click OK. We'll drag that out into our view. So now what you can see, the reason we know this is working is because we get the same value for each date going across each year. Right? So 6.86 is the average area across January 1st every single year. Okay? Now what we need to do is we need to create a 7-day rolling off of this calculation. So what we'll do is we'll duplicate our 7-day rolling average, change this to sum, change this to norm date, and then add in rolling average. I'm going to call this historical. Okay. I'll add this into our view. And again, make sure that it is explicitly doing norm date, which it is, which is wonderful. All right, so you can see now so 6.79 is the average of these two, and so on. The 6.39 is the average of all of these days. Let's go look at 2023. All right, so now what we need to do is basically just need to take the difference of the 7-day averages. So we'll do calculated field, and we'll just call this historical variance. It's going to be the rolling average minus the rolling historical. Click OK. Drag that in. There it is. Make sure again that you're using the norm date, which we are. You might be thinking, why did we explicitly say the norm date? Why didn't we just do table across or table down? Because the reason that you explicitly tell Tableau how to do that is now all I have to do is just go rearrange this crosstab to make our view, and everything will work, which is pretty nice, right? I won't have to I won't have to go into all of our table calculations and remake the compute because I changed the way that Tableau was, that the worksheet is set up, right? So now all we have to do is just do a little bit of re-swizzling of this crosstab, and we'll be able to get the view that we're after. So we're going to remove measure names and measure values. We're going to move norm date up to columns. We'll remove our year filter to bring all of our years back. We will take the year, drag it onto detail, make it continuous. Drag norm date and make it continuous on columns. So here we have a mark for each day. Then we'll take our historical variance, and there we go, right? So the next thing we need to do is we need to create our decades. So there's a couple different ways that you can do this. There are multiple ways to calculate decades, right? This is the way that I do it. You can do it differently, however you want. So, but we want all of the decades except for 2023. So we're going to show if our year is equal to 2023, then return the string of year. Else if our year is less than the year 2000, then we want to say 19 plus the mid of string year going over three characters, taking that first character plus zeros. Else, right? So this, if it's the year 2023, give me 2023. If it's less than the year 2000, give me the decade plus 19. Right? So you get the 1990s, 80s, 70s. But for years that are greater than 2000, all we have to do is just copy this, paste it down here, and just replace the 19 with 20. And then we'll end our case statement here, or our if statement. Click OK. We'll drag this and we'll put it on color. And you can see here we've got a color for each decade with 2023. We'll drop the size all the way down, and we'll drop the opacity down to about 30%. So you can still see all the lines, right? All right, now what we need to do is we need to be able to show just the decade line and 2023. So we want a line for the 80s aggregated, for the 90s aggregated, and 2023 aggregated, right? So we want to highlight those specific ones. So the way that we're going to do that, we're just going to bring historical variance right back out, make it a secondary axis. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to that marks card and remove year. See how that aggregates everything up? And then what we'll do is we'll bring the size back up and we'll bring the opacity back up. Right? So that is the overall, that is the average variance, or that's the variance for the 7-day averages across the date and the normalized date. So now we can just make this a dual axis. Actually, let's not do a dual axis just yet. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is we need to create the labels for these lines. So what we need to do is for just the last one. So we'll come in here, we'll go to create field, we'll do max date label, and we'll call this if date equals the max date, then return the date. Else return nothing else. Right? A table scope max date. Click OK. Bring that to label. Bring that to year. Make that exact date. 6/18/23, right? We're getting somewhere. Now what we need to do is we need to create the calculated field for the number of millions of square miles. So this is MS million square miles max date label. If date equals max date, then return the historical 7-day average. And Tableau is not going to like that because I've got a table calculation in here, so I need to aggregate all of this. I need to aggregate everything. Click OK. Tableau's happy. Put it on label. There we go. Right? 13.58. And then we'll just do this again one more time. We'll call this the max date variance, which is going to be the if adder of date equals the max of date. Did you see what you almost see what I did there? You see I almost did, or I started typing order date because I've used Superstore so much. So catch that little Easter egg. If you didn't, you did now because I told you. And then what? We're going to return the historical variance. And click OK. Put that on there. There it is. Do we have everything we need? Yeah. What we'll do now is we'll go in here and we'll just format this, right? So we've got, there we go. Whew. I was like pulling teeth. And we'll just put that over there. There we go. Cool. All right. Now, finally, let's bring this all together. Let's make it a dual axis. Synchronize. Bingo bango. Just like that, right? Now we just need to do a little formatting and we're off to the races, right? So we know how to do that. We'll hide this. Format this. Get rid of our borders. Get rid of our title. Get rid of our header. Oh, I didn't synchronize. I unsynchronized. That was silly of me. There we go. Show the header. There we go. Now we're good. Okay. Yep. Looks like we also have... There we go. Something like that, right? Ice extent versus historical ice extent versus normal. Like that. That looks good. Pop this bad guy into a dashboard. See what size. 600 by 600. Fixed. 600, 600. There we go. Get rid of that. Well, not rid of that. We'll say make this legend in a single row. And we'll drop that in the top. Okay. Hide our title. And there we go. Right? And we'll just add a text box for our title and we're good to go. So there you go. So, hopefully you learned a lot. Thanks so much for watching. Please give me a subscribe. Please like it. Drop me a comment. It really helps out the channel. And I look forward to showing you the next solution next week. Thanks so much for watching. Go forth and viz.